video, we are gonna walk through the steps on how to make a cylinder. So we have our piece nice and centered. Remember when we were centering, our wheel was going as fast as it could go. For all the next steps, your wheel is gonna get slower, slower, slower. So we don't want it to be going this fast once we move on to our next steps. We wanna reduce our speed by like half. So somewhere around here. Now we need to create our opening. So you're gonna place our hands on the side, make sure your arms are still tucked into your body. You wanna keep yourself stable. And then place your hands around the side. They're not applying any pressure, they're just hanging out. And you're gonna take your two thumbs and you are going to dive them straight down the center. Make sure your arms are tucked into your body. And I'm slowly going to dive straight down. Now you don't wanna go through the bottom. So once you feel like you're close to the bottom, we can check to see how much clay we have down there. You're gonna take your needle tool, turn your wheel off. You're going to push it down through the bottom. You're gonna take your pointer finger, hold it down, make sure you're touching the base of the clay, grab onto that needle tool and pull them out together. And then that shows us how much clay we have left. I don't know if you can see that or not. So it shows us how much clay we have left. So I can go down a little bit farther. We want about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna drop down just a little bit more. And then now we need to pull our base open. So we need to create a flat bottom. When you are making a cylinder, you want to create a nice flat bottom. Now a lot of beginners, when they do it, they just naturally kind of lose their pressure as they're pulling out. So as they're pulling out, they're losing pressure and then they create this rounded bottom, which is great if you're making a bowl, but for a cylinder, we want a nice flat bottom. So make sure or try to maintain that pressure. Now it's also important when you're wheel throwing that you move as fast as the wheel is moving. So I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. So I'll show you on the outside, and you can even practice it on the outside here. So when I'm moving at the same speed as my wheel, my lines are nice and tight together, like that. If I am moving too fast and I move like this, you can see that there are a lot of areas that my finger did not touch. It's the same thing as when you're working with clay. It's just showing you that those are parts of the clay that aren't getting touched by you. So some parts are and they're getting thrown up, some parts aren't, so it is just throwing your pot off and making it a little wonky. But if you move too slow, and you stay in the same spot way too long, you're gonna just keep taking more and more clay from that area, thinning that area out, and your pot's probably gonna collapse. So it's important that you are maintaining nice, even, consistent speed for anytime you're pulling out or doing anything on the clay. We wanna maintain the same speed as our wheel is moving. Now this takes a little bit of practice, so have grace for yourself, but you can practice on the outside like this. If you just hold your finger, try to run it, get those nice and tight lines together, and then once you feel comfortable with that, you can move on to the clay. So when you're pulling out, creating your base, we want to move at the same speed as our wheel. We don't want to pull out super fast. We also don't want to pull out farther than our clay goes. So when I pull out, I only want to pull out to here, to the outside. I don't want to pull it out farther or it is going to drop and I'm not going to have any base. It's going to kind of collapse over the base. So I drop my middle finger down there just because it's the longest. You still want to make a nice connection for your body, so you want to have a triangle. So my arms are tight to my body. I have my left hand on the outside hanging out. I drop my right hand and my hands are touching. It's really important that your hands are always connected so you have a nice stable connection. If not, you can get kind of wonky and your hands will kind of move and then this throws the pot off. So you just want to have a nice solid connection. I'm going to slowly start to pull the clay towards me, maintaining a nice even pressure so that my base looks like this, nice and flat. We do want to compress the base, so I'm going to just run my finger from the outside to the middle back to the outside. Not applying a whole lot of pressure, just a little bit. Just running it back and forth. That helps to compress the clay and reduce cracking. Now we're gonna move on to what I call volcano. So the force of the wheel naturally wants everything to go out. So we try to counteract that by pushing the cylinder into a volcano shape to start. So I have my left hand on the inside, right hand on the outside. I like to wrap my pointer finger in a sponge for my outside finger. You don't have to do that, it's up to you. I just think it helps with the wobbles a little bit. Make sure your hands are touching, make sure your arms are close to your body. My inside hand is not applying any pressure, just my outside hand is. So they're both starting at the bottom. This one is just following along, but only my outside hand is pressing in as they move up the clay. Now remember, we want to move at the same speed as our wheel. You don't want to go faster, don't want to go slower. Nice, even, consistent pressure. You can see that pushed it into a kind of volcano shape. Now we need to do, I call them bubbles, but you're creating a bubble of clay to pull up your wall. So you're doing a pull, is what it's called. I tell my students to create bubbles at the bottom, bubbles of clay that they then pull up. So to create a bubble, our inside hand is gonna press out. Our outside hand is gonna sit underneath of that finger. They're just slightly staggered and they are going to follow each other up. So inside hand presses out, outside hand sits underneath, and they're gently pressing in towards each other, following each other up. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So my left hand is pressing out. So I'm creating that bubble. So there's that bubble of clay right there. My outside hand's gonna sit underneath of that bubble. So my inside hand is inside that bubble, outside hand is under it. Make sure your arms are tight to your body. Make sure your hands are touching. Gently pressing those fingers in towards each other. You are going to slowly move up the wall. Make sure your wheel's moving at a nice slow pace. Make sure your hands are moving at a nice slow pace, but consistently moving up the walls. Now, after every pull, it's good practice to compress your rim. So you take your pointer and thumb, they just sit on the outside of the rim. Take your pointer finger of your other hand and just gently press it down. We're gonna do another pull. We're gonna keep doing pulls to lift all that clay from the bottom. So my inside hand is pressing out the bottom there. You can see it produces that bubble. Outside hand sits underneath of it. My hands are touching, arms are close to my body, and they are going to slowly follow each other up. Moving at a nice, consistent, even pace. Take your time, no rushing. And then compress my rim. Now, if I feel like I've moved up most of my clay, I'm going to straighten up my walls. So I like to use a wooden rib. Your inside hand is still on the inside, outside hand is now replaced by the rib, and you are going to press against the rib with your inside hand. Make sure your hands are still connected. I just kind of drop my thumb over onto my hand. And as I move up, I am pressing against that rib with my inside hand. And that is going to help straighten my walls and even them out. So if you are happy with your cylinder, squeeze out all the water from your sponge. Just hold it in the bottom so it collects all that water that's collected in there. And then hold your rib over your rim to smooth that out. And you are done. So now you can wire your piece off. So I'm going to wrap my wire around my fingers, and I'm going to sit my thumbs right on top of the wire, and then sit that right on top of my bat. The reason I do this is because if you don't and you just kind of pull like this, sometimes you can pull it uneven and then you cut off an uneven bottom. So if your thumbs always stay on top of the wire, on top of the bat, you're always gonna pull a nice flat even bottom. So I'm gonna pull that straight towards me. And then you can take the whole bat off and just wrap this up in plastic so that we can slow the drying process down and we can trim this in a couple days.